hello everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As I always do, I have to start with announcements. Otherwise, what would this channel even be? But I want to start first by thanking each and every one of you for 50 subscribers here on the Weather Minds channel. As I've mentioned before, I know that 50 subscribers might not mean a lot to you or might not seem like much. However, for a creator like myself that is just starting out and literally just started this channel 2 weeks ago, the fact that we're already at 50 subscribers is one of those little victories that I love to celebrate. So a huge thank you and a shout out to all of you who have supported this channel over the last couple of weeks. As I've mentioned before, I really want this to be a channel about you guys, so if you have any suggestions about how we can curtail this weather content to fit your needs, or if you're looking just for more information that I can help you out with as far as maybe doing your own investigation about the weather or learning something that you didn't know before, post that down in the comments below or feel free to reach out to me through Discord. I'd be happy to take any feedback or suggestions as well as answer any of your questions about the weather. I'm always about people learning and learning more about the weather, so all of that and more, feel free to reach out, post it down in the comments, or get in touch with me here on Discord. The other quick announcement that I have for all of you is that I will actually be joining a live stream tonight. It's going to be a channel called Pat's Path Predictor. I personally know Pat. He's a good friend of mine. And we're going to be talking more in depth about the severe weather potential for tomorrow across the lower Great Lakes and the Midwest region. And why don't I go ahead and put out the outlook for you right now? We're going to dive into it too during this video. But this is what we're talking about for tonight and this video. We now have a moderate risk of severe weather for the mid to northern Mississippi Valley region. This is particularly going to be for areas like Davenport, Clinton, Burlington, Iowa, even getting as far north as Cedar Rapids. And that moderate also extends west into parts of south central Iowa. But then even within that moderate and outside of it, we have an enhanced risk of severe weather that extends all the way to the Chicago and Milwaukee metros. So there's plenty to talk about. We're going to be really diving deeper into that discussion tonight during Path Predictor's live stream. So I will post a link to that down in the comments below where you can be joining us and bring your questions. Anything that we can answer for you, we'd be happy to do so. But we also will be covering this severe weather event tonight during this, of course, video that you'll be seeing by this evening. So that is going to be the focus of the video for this evening. But as I said, we'll do more of an in-depth conversation on the live stream on Path Predictor channel later on tonight. God, that is such a mouthful. It's always a tongue twister. Pat's Path Predictor. It's like saying Peter Piper pick a pepper. I can't even do that either. So anyway, all that information is going to be posted down in the comments below. And with that all said, let's get into today's video. Folks, let's kick things off in today's video by taking another look at the latest Day 2 outlook issued by the Storm Prediction Center. We started off today's video in hinting at it, but here it is once again. We have a moderate risk of severe weather for Tuesday, and the greatest probabilities that exist are going to be for the Quad Cities, Burlington and Clinton, Iowa, you too as well, and then South Central Iowa. So that's who's in the moderate, but then you also have an enhanced risk that extends beyond that. That's going to include the Chicago metro as well as the Milwaukee metro and suburbs. Same thing, of course, for Chicago, and then also Kansas City. Finally, we also do have a slight risk that extends as far north as northern Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan, and as far south as Oklahoma City. But if we break it down by hazard type for tomorrow, we are anticipating some pretty high probability of tornadoes across eastern and central Iowa. Not just high probability of tornadoes, but ones that are significant. We're talking about some tornadoes that do form, if they do, could be greater than EF2 threshold. So that's pretty significant. And again, that's going to be for folks in eastern and central Iowa. We also do have a 5% tor that extends eastward into Chicago and Milwaukee. Next, we have a hail threat that's also pretty significant, 30% for much of Iowa and Missouri, even extending as far east as the Mississippi River side of Illinois. And then look at that hatch, folks. We're talking about not just high probabilities of hail, but significant hail for southwestern Iowa, northwestern Missouri. We could be talking about hail bigger than tennis ball size at times, if not greater than that, for folks in the area designated by that hatch. But then finally, we also have wind potential. 45% chance of significant wind gusts highlighted here in that purple, and then 30% highlighted in red, yellow and green, lower probabilities. Even if you don't see tornadoes in Iowa tomorrow, that's not your only concern. You also have to be concerned about large destructive hail as well as destructive straight line winds. We could be talking about winds exceeding 80 to 90 miles per hour at times in some of our stronger storms. In this video specifically, if there's anybody that needs to be concerned about straight line winds, it's for you folks in the Mississippi River Valley. There is a crap ton of trees, and a lot of folks down by the river live in not so great shelter. We're talking about mobile homes, lower income housing. So if you know anybody that lives in, say, Clinton, Burlington, right by the river, Quad Cities near Davenport, Moline, you want to make sure you get this video out to them. You can do so by sharing, liking, and subscribing because they definitely need to be informed about this. We're talking about a pretty significant situation that could be unfolding tomorrow. And that severe risk, as we talked about with the tornado threat, also extends west into central Iowa too. So even if you're not in the moderate, you still are at a very heightened risk for some significant severe weather that is going to begin tomorrow afternoon and extend well into the evening and overnight hours for a lot of you, from the Missouri River Valley all the way east into the southern Great Lake region. Taking a look here at our upper level jet, and I gotta be honest with you guys, it's gonna look like a broken record because one of the things that we've been talking about consistently over the last few days is the idea that we have these two differing jet streams, one being the polar jet that's indicated by this black arrow, and then a secondary one known as our Pacific jet that is moving from the southwest over towards the northeast. The focal point and the catalyst behind a lot of what we're going to see tomorrow is going to be the coupling of these two jet streams. So this is from the GFS. If we take this through time tonight and into tomorrow morning, you see, and it's kind of hard to see on the upper level jet, but we actually do have these two jets coupling at this point, if I was to draw that on that black line indicated there. And notice what happens to our wind field. It actually increases. As a matter of fact, let's look at that from the jet stream level and see if we can't see it better. And that's actually a lot better representation. So remember, here is your polar jet. Here is your subtropical jet. Watch what happens to this little shortwave as it moves off towards the north and east tomorrow morning. You notice that your winds significantly increase. Not only that, but look what happened to your wind field. We went from the small corridors across as the four corner states to a much broader and even stronger wind field aloft. I mean, look at that, guys. We're talking about 400-500 miles of pretty strong and sustainable upper level winds. This jet coupling is what's responsible for not just strengthening our winds aloft, but also deepening our surface low pressure system that's going to be embedded within this shortwave. Hey, speaking of surface low pressure systems, what a better way to look at that than the 850 millibar height map. Remember that 850 millibars is a really great product to use if we're trying to diagnose and identify low pressure systems, and if we're trying to locate thermal and moisture advection. All of that is going to play out here on this very map. As we go forward into tonight and Tuesday morning, you begin to see some of these red colors lighten up like a Christmas tree across Kansas and Oklahoma. That's indicating to us that this low pressure system is beginning to form on the lee side of the Rockies. And if we take this into Tuesday afternoon and evening, you'll notice that the low pressure system really begins to crank and deepen. By the time it gets all the way up to the Mississippi River Valley by tomorrow evening, we're going to be seeing low-level winds upwards of 60 to 70 knots across what would be the Quad Cities, even extending as far north as the UP of Michigan. So why is that important? Well, we're going to have a lot of baroclinicity here. So that means that our low pressure is deepening. We have those really strong winds with height. Remember, we talked about it here just moments ago. We have a coupling jet that is going to eject from the southwest to the northeast. Really strong winds aloft. That's going to create a lot of upper level divergence. Couple that with a surface low that's going to deepen along that jet stream. You're then going to get a low level jet southerly flow that eats into this thing and thereby conducive for severe weather initiation and development. The low level jet part is also important too, because if we think about it and we roll this back for a moment, we see that our low level jet, our southwesterly and southerly flow, just gets worse over time. It actually strengthens throughout the afternoon and evening as our low pressure deepens. They both are simultaneously strengthening with time. And so as that's happening, we can actually expect that our tornado potential for folks in eastern and central Iowa to actually increase throughout the day and into the evening. It's not just going to be an afternoon thing or an evening thing. We could be talking about tornadoes into the nighttime, especially for you folks downstream of those storms in places like northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin. So this is a huge indicator that we have a lot of instability to work with and an environment and parameter space conducive for not just tornadoes, but straight line damaging winds and some large hail. So if you're wondering about the timing on some of these storms that fire off for tomorrow, look no further than one of our handy dandy weather models, the HRRR. This is, as of right now, the time of the video, Monday afternoon and evening. We've had some of that convection that started off in northern Illinois has now moved off towards the east for folks in Milwaukee. That's going to be eventually heading towards Michigan later on this evening into the overnight with some conditional threat of severe weather for you folks. But as we get into tomorrow morning, we begin to see some initiation out towards far southern reaches of Minnesota. A couple little Boeing segments that are firing off too. That's certainly indicating some strong damaging winds that could happen in the overnight and early pre-dawn hours of tomorrow for some of you in extreme north central Iowa and, as I said, south central Minnesota. But as we get through the morning hours into the afternoon, we see a lot of convection taking place across central Iowa. That's certainly going to be a question mark, and one of the things that I forgot to mention in the top of this video. But when we have a lot of thunderstorm development, that could actually limit some of our supercell potential. So if we were to go off of the HRRR's sort of rendition of what could be tomorrow, that would imply that we would see more of a damaging wind threat in the form of a large complex, such as what's shown on this model. So like an MCS and such, not so much semi-discrete supercells with the conditional TOR probability. So if we take that into the evening though, you see that that moves off towards the north and east for folks in central Wisconsin, with additional development taking place later on in the afternoon out towards southwestern Wisconsin. Could be some supercells there. And then another Boeing line out towards central Iowa during that same time around 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow. And then by the time we get towards the overnight and even evening hours of Tuesday, we see this really large line of showers and thunderstorms. Look how long that is, guys. That goes from northern Wisconsin all the way down into extreme northeastern Oklahoma. That's a few to several hundred-mile wide line of showers and thunderstorms. And that, by the way, is showing a really broad and strengthening cold front along the line of thunderstorms there. So we could be talking about some damaging winds and also the conditional TOR threat for you folks in the Chicago metro and even Milwaukee. But by that point, I'm really thinking that we're going to be seeing mostly straight line damaging winds with some smaller hail. That's going to move out of the region by Wednesday morning. We get some clearing, but some light shower and thunderstorm activity for folks in central and southern Illinois, and then back towards St. Louis for your Wednesday morning and afternoon. Listen, this was a very quick video. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I appreciate your patience with me. It's going to be kind of a weird uploading schedule here over the next couple of days as I continue my progress in moving to South Carolina here by the end of the week. So we will be back with more of a consistent uploading schedule next week and beyond. So be on the lookout for that. And also for a more in-depth conversation about the severe weather risk for tomorrow across much of the Midwest, head on over to the live stream tonight on Path Predictor YouTube channel. That's going to be starting around 7 p.m. Central, so be there, bring your questions, and we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you on the next weather video.